Hey, what's going on? Welcome into the season 5 debut of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. That's right. Every Wednesday afternoon or thereabouts, 2 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be bringing you the North Idaho Prepcast on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can tune in live, interact with us in the chat. We'll throw your comments up on the screen. You can, of course, watch this North Idaho Prepcast anytime on replay at any of those destinations I said earlier, YouTube, Facebook, and X, or you can listen to the North Idaho Prepcast at IdahoSports.com, along with wherever you download and subscribe to podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, etc., all that good stuff. My name is Brandon Baney, back for season 5 of the North Idaho Prepcast. Let's bring on our North Idaho resident and expert, the one, the only, Ryan Scaggs. What's up, Scaggs?
Dude, summer's been good. Yeah, no, things are good. Ready for season 5. It seems like just yesterday we kind of kicked this thing off, and instead of like dissipating and going off into the sunset, we've got a secret weapon, and it's sitting backstage in the artillery. We're ready to get firing on all cylinders.
That's right. Debut season 5 show here. And of course, we want to set the bar low. We're scheduled to go on at 2. Here it is, 2:20, already running late. We did that a lot last year.
It wouldn't be our Prepcast if we weren't running at least 10 to 20 minutes late.
That's right. So, off and running. Hey, it also is not an episode of the North Idaho Prepcast if we don't hear from our good friend Sam Buffington. He's reposted the stream for us, doing great work. And then Ryan, you overcame your stage fright. Congratulations, my friend. Yeah, we had our Gem State Game Day season preview last night. Ryan, you were not part of that, but you were having lots of comments behind the scenes, and Sam was kind of joking with you that you had stage fright. So you conquered it, and you're back.
Yeah, I was saying I have a face for radio, so I was working late last night and chiming in with you guys when I could, fit it in between work. So trying to play catch up and stuff like that. We had our air conditioning go out on Monday, and shout out to Sturm Heating and Cooling for getting us back on track. It was 88 degrees in our house on Monday, and I was dying, and so not much work got accomplished. So yeah, I was playing catch up.
I was going to say it was like 95 outside in Coeur d'Alene. So yeah, it was definitely hot on Monday. Not a ideal time for the, yeah, that's for sure. Well, Ryan, you mentioned it, a secret weapon this year, not just on the North Idaho Prepcast, but joining the IdahoSports.com roster. And a guy you heard from last night on our first episode of Gem State Game Day. It is over in District 2, Hayden Uhlenkott. Hayden, welcome in.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be a part of this new era of the North Idaho Prepcast.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Of course, athletics fans over in District 2 and certainly North Idaho would know the Uhlenkott name. That's like Smith over in Cottonwood, right, Hayden?
It's close. I don't quite live up to that legacy, but I have a few cousins that do.
That's right. That's right. Well, the first show of the year is always a time where we just kind of reintroduce ourselves to the audience. We pick up new viewers, new listeners with each season that we do. We do have, of course, our fans that have listened in seasons prior, but we always like to use the first episode just kind of as a brief introduction to who we are, our backgrounds a little bit, and then just to give you an idea of kind of what the show is going to be like each week throughout the school year. So Ryan, why don't you go ahead and get started? Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the bio.
Yeah. So, obviously I'm married and a dad. I've got a 9-year-old son that'll be turning 10 this school year. He's going into 4th grade, coaching some flag football this year again. So we won the, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the cereal bowl last year. So, it's like winning first, I guess. I don't know. They say it's the best cereal, but I beg to differ. But yeah, no, I'm grew up in the LC Valley and bounced around at a few high schools in the region, was on the Washington side of things for quite a while in my coaching career, and then jumped to Lakeland and coached there for a spell. I mean, it was about 4 or 5 years I was there. So, and then, just got to be a dad and a fan. And, I run a business here in Coeur d'Alene, and yeah, this has been a ton of fun. This is my 5th year doing this with you, and doing stuff with Idaho Sports and broadcasting. It's been an absolute blast, and even bringing in my son into the fold a little bit when he was at state with us last year at basketball, running all the commercials and everything and running the score bug. So you'll probably see him around with me at some of the games on Friday nights too. But yeah, just looking forward to another year of this. And, the kids that started as freshmen are now, freshmen, they're now gone. They've graduated. So we got rid of our first class last year. And so now we're looking at this new group and a lot of same names. There's some new faces in the mix and coaching world and obviously in sports, but there's all, and even here, we got Hayden here joining us, which I'm super excited to have him on board with us. And he kind of had a similar track that I did. So I'll let him talk a little bit more about that probably, but him and I kind of had similar roots of where we started. So this is a pretty cool experience.
For sure. Before I forget, the North Idaho Prepcast is sponsored by, I'm still in preseason form here. Got to knock the rust off. Cornerstone Insurance Northwest. You can go to cornerstoneinsurancenw.com for auto, home, airplanes, Airbnbs. If you're a broadcaster and you need an insurance policy on your voice, want to protect against overuse, you can do that. And Ryan, remind us again, how many states Cornerstone Insurance NW is licensed in?
So currently right now, Idaho, Washington, Montana, Oregon, Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, and Florida.
Okay. That's a good, eventually it's going to be all 50 states. I'm confident of that. So
gosh, I hope not, man. I don't know if I want to be that busy, but yeah, it's been awesome. And, we're just so incredibly blessed to be growing and, we opening an office here in town soon. So not so much of their whole remote gig anymore, but, the pains of growing, which is good, but, we see it here too. So with Idaho Sports, we're growing and getting into more areas and, getting more access and doing cooler things. And, we're just happy to be along for the ride.
That's right. I think the next step, the next state you're going to add is Alaska, right? Didn't President Trump reach out to you for an insurance policy? He's meeting with Vlad Putin on Friday in Anchorage. We don't want anybody mysteriously falling out of a fourth-story window.
World, I don't want to touch Alaska because that's a whole nother animal. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'll get us back on track here. Ryan, you coached football, wrestling in your career, and of course tennis. Let's not forget a very successful stint as tennis coach at Lakeland as well. So
the legendary, we had a legendary team at Lakeland. No, I see those kids around too, and it's pretty awesome to see what kind of adults they've grown into, and even getting some of my athletes that I coach, they get to join us time to time on Idaho Sports has been pretty rad too. And it's what it's all about though. Like we give. It's all this is about is just giving the kids a platform and, they get the notoriety, they get the spotlight that they earn and deserve. And, I kind of beat the drum about that over and over again. It's not about us and our ego. It's about the kids. And, if they want to come join us later on, you can email Brandon at IdahoSports.com. So, yeah.
That's right. Okay. Well, I'll tell the audience a little bit about myself. My name is Brandon Baney. I too, like Ryan, I live in Coeur d'Alene, ironically enough. So I used to live in Pocatello. Prior to that, I lived in Pocatello for 5 years, moved to Coeur d'Alene 2 years ago. So I am a North Idaho resident, true and true. We also, already got a first comment here. We'll get to it in just a second. Besides Sam, of course. Okay. Quickly, I grew up in Montana. I've lived in Wyoming. I've lived in Nebraska, Idaho the last 7 years. I've been at IdahoSports.com for 5 years now. Me and Scaggs kind of came in at the same time. We were in that initial, the class of 2019 or whatever you want to call it at IdahoSports.com. And so, this is what I do. I work for IdahoSports.com full time, work from home, which is great. This time of year, things get a little crazy. So it's been fun, but incredibly busy. And that's basically it. I played football, basketball, track and field at my school in Montana, real small town in western Montana. And then got into the media business. I worked at radio for a long time. I did everything from news to sports to hosted a morning show on the pop station, talked in between songs, went and did remote broadcasts at different, car dealerships and businesses around town. what I really like is all three of us have that radio background, so we know all about that radio life, which is fun. But if you can do sports full time, that's a good gig too. So that's basically my story. And I parlayed that into a full-time career in sports, which is something I cherish every day because not everybody gets to do that. So that's my story. Hayden, you're the new guy here. I think everyone is most interested to hear about you, Hayden. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I would think so. I graduated in 2020. So the best year possible if you're a graduating senior, had to deal with COVID, and it was everything you could dream of. And yeah, I went to Boise State for a year. I ended up dropping out. Now work here in Cottonwood on the Camas Prairie. And I got into the radio business because of a broadcaster by the name of Jim Church. He's a legendary radio broadcaster here on the Camas Prairie. And I started working with him a lot, doing a lot of KAMI, Grangeville and Prairie games, and started to do a lot more. And it was really fun. I was able to go to, the Idaho Center twice last year to do the Prairie Girls as well as the KAMI boys. And it was a blast to just be on that stage and be able to broadcast those teams back home to the community. And then I saw, it was actually kind of a funny story, but I was calling a Prairie Grace football game this last fall, and Paul Kingsbury was right alongside me at the in the booth, and he said he was going down to KAMI the next day, and I said, you know what, I could maybe tag along, and I ended up making the trip. I was a little late and did a game with him, and I said, hey, I DM'd you on Instagram probably about 6 months ago. Like, if you ever wanted me to help out, like, I'd be willing to. And he never got back to me. And so he totally ghosted me. And that was my first experience with Paul Kingsbury. And so it's been a love and hate relationship ever since. And we're trying to build on it. But yeah, I wanted to join Idaho Sports, just be a part of being able to do more things, travel, not necessarily travel as far. When I was covering Grangeville, I was going up to Coeur d'Alene, then Boise the next weekend. Now it's a little more local, but I get to see more sports and more teams, and that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, you're going to be one of our primary broadcasters over in District 2. Hey, show of hands if Paul Kingsbury has ghosted you on something important. Here's Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast in the chat as well. We've all met that ghost. Yeah, 100% for sure. So Hayden, we are so glad to have you on board over there in District 2 for sure. And oh, look at that. Sam giving the hand raise too. That's funny. That's great. So what can fans expect every week on the North Idaho Prepcast when they tune in? Well, for starters, this is something I did with the East Idaho Prepcast last season. As I have taken on more and more responsibilities, and it's a lot of times it's like behind the scenes stuff at IdahoSports.com, like all of the schedules and all of the scores and all the stuff that's on the website. Well, it requires a lot of manpower and hours behind the scenes. So just because I'm not necessarily like talking and doing a bunch of shows, I'm still doing lots of other stuff. So long story short, when we have brought on quality broadcasters that I think are good fits for these regional prepcasts that we do, I like handing it off because let's be honest, nobody wants to hear me talk for 10 hours a week on 5 different shows. We want a variety of voices here at IdahoSports.com. And so this is going to
listen, you read me the phone book, Brandon.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but long story short, I'm going to step back from the North Idaho Prepcast this season. I'll still come on, and pinch hit occasionally, when you guys need it, but it's going to be Ryan and Hayden kind of leading the way here this season on the North Idaho Prepcast. I think it's going to be actually a perfect balance because Ryan, you live in Coeur d'Alene, right in the heart of District 1. Hayden, you live on the Camas Prairie. You are plugged into what's going on District 2 wise. And so having those two voices from the two areas, I think is going to be a perfect blend. So Ryan, I'm excited about it.
No, I agree. And also too, just the fit of kind of where we get to see a lot of the teams. I mean, obviously being in District 1, we get to see a lot of the 5A, 6A, 4A stuff. And then, Hayden obviously has the absence of 4A down there in District 2. with the exception of Moscow once they join, when they're playing football in the IEL or not IML this year. But he gets to be plugged in and see all the 3A games in the CIL. He gets to see all those teams week to week. He gets to see the White Pine League and on both the 2A and 1A level. And that I think it's just going to be a great balance of what we're going to be able to bring week to week. And instead of being an inch deep and a mile wide, maybe we get to be a little bit more in depth this year. I think that's going to be the advantage, obviously, for the listener, but for the kids too. I mean, you get more recognition. We'll be able to talk more volleyball, or be able to talk more cross country or whatever it is, golf, all the other sports that we try to dive into. And really, instead of talking about 15 games at one time and call it a day, for 20 seconds, maybe we pick apart a game for like 5 minutes and we get to break things down. So I think you the listener, are going to be the ones that are probably going to reap the most benefits of having Hayden on board.
Yep. And both of you guys have that background in radio. You're excellent storytellers. So I think it's just going to be a perfect pairing. So Hayden, we are certainly appreciative and grateful that you have stepped up to usher in a new era of North Idaho Prepcasting.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I think having that District 2 presence is going to, it allows those kids to get recognized. I mean, even for myself, I covered a lot of teams on the Camas Prairie, but not much more. I mean, obviously I've watched Kendrick and the Logoses and even Lewiston a little bit, but not near as in depth as what this opportunity brings. And so, it's a benefit for me, but it's also a huge blessing for those guys to be able to have us covering them like constantly in just about every sport they do.
Yeah. And as a reminder, really, we want to hear from you, the fans. And so if there is a story, if there is an athlete, if there's a team, something that you want us to talk about, something that's not being covered and should be, you can always reach out to any of us. My email address is on the screen there, Brandon@IdahoSports.com. I'll make sure Hayden and Ryan get the info if you want to email it to me. Hayden has put his X account handle at Hayden Uhlenkott. Scaggs usually has his X handle, but this time he put a clever quip in. Practice. What do you I have to ask about that. Practice. What do you mean practice? What is that about?
Man. Practice? Oh, it's 2 days and everything else. The season kicked off this week and practice has started. So it was kind of my homage to all the kids dealing with the heat. And I guess for the first 3 days of football season outside and volleyball and everything else that's going on in another way right now.
Well, and you talk about practice, like, I mean, how crucial is practice this year for the football season? I mean, teams have games next week. Like, you have to do 2-a-days to even be eligible. It's crazy how important this year practice is.
It's seriously, I mean, you have that dead week, it hit, obviously the first week, but it was like really only a half a week this year. Just because a lot of these teams playing those 0-week games. And I don't think they want to call it 0 week anymore. Isn't it week 1 now? Did they change it, or is it still? Yeah, it's week 1.
So here's what they told me from the IHSAA. They said, we've never had a 0 week. It's always just been week 1. And so I'm like, okay, we will start calling it week 1. And so it's week 1 through week 10.
We'll talk some week 1 games. So, I mean, I'm seeing the comments here, but we'll get to it shortly. But it gets underway quick and in a hurry. I mean, we've got events, I think, taking place early next week in some of the sports. So, I mean, it's here. It's happening in a hurry. I mean, I don't know where summer went because it feels like Brandon and I just closed the book on, the 24-25 school year. And here we are sitting here already talking 25-26. So, summer went away and it really, really fast this year. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, it's crazy for sure. So if you want to reach out to any of us, Brandon@IdahoSports.com, at Hayden Uhlenkott on X. Ryan's X handle is at Idaho Game Night, North Idaho Game Night. You can reach out to Ryan that way there. Okay. I was going to ask kind of like what was one big story that you kind of followed over the summer to talk about just kind of briefly. And then we do have one request in the chat. Amelia wants us to talk about the Rigby Coeur d'Alene football game coming up next Friday in Rigby. We will talk about that, Amelia, in 1 second. But first, Hayden, what was like one thing that happened this summer in high school athletics up north that caught your eye? Anything?
Oh man, there's so many, but the one that has to stand out has to be all the chaos coming up here in Cottonwood with all the firings. I mean, having 3 coaches fired within, hours of each other and not a lot of explanations, lots of confusion, still chaos ensuing right now. And it's a weird time to be here in Cottonwood. You walk on the street, you are guaranteed to talk to somebody about it. And, it sucks it's really unfortunate for a lot of the athletes because they don't know who their coach is going to be, and they don't really know what's all happening. But I think, the school board or the administration, they know best, and, they believe they're making the right decision, and you have to trust them with it on some part of it. And it's chaotic. That's the only way I can really explain it.
Yeah, for those that may have missed it in June, the Cottonwood School Board essentially decided to terminate the contracts of 3 varsity coaches at Prairie High School. Dave Shears, the baseball coach, Julie Schumacher, the volleyball coach, and perhaps most surprising, Lori Mader, the girls basketball coach who had coached Prairie for was it 18 seasons and all 18 years?
Administration or something like that. I mean, she was there forever.
Yeah, I mean, 18 years of winning records. I think she went to state almost every single year, if not all of them. And she is not only like probably the most accomplished girls basketball coach in Prairie High School history, but she's probably the most accomplished player in Prairie High School history. She played for the Pirates in the early 90s, went on and played college ball, came back to her hometown, gave back to the future generations. And so we're talking about like an all-time icon at Prairie. This just, it doesn't happen a lot. And like you said, Hayden, I'm sure the town has just been a buzz ever since.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. I can't even describe it. Some people maybe have mixed feelings about it. Other people are maybe happy. Other people are just stunned. It's strange. No one's really saying what they really feel. I think a lot of people are hiding what they feel about the situation because they, don't want to get tied up into the chaos that it is. But yeah, I feel like, whoever you hire, it has to be the right person. And if it is moving in the right direction, I just hope it's a good one. And because at the end of the day, that's what's most important for the kids.
Yeah. Scaggs, what was one big story you saw over the summer?
So it's kind of a part A, part B, because the first one I saw happen when I kind of heard the rumblings of what was going on. The school year wasn't quite over yet, and we kind of had to stay hush hush on it. And Sam's dropping hints in the chat, but Zane Hobart getting hired at Lewiston was like the A part of this, because I think that's a home run hire. If I'm Lewiston, that is, I mean, he's going to do a phenomenal job. That's a sleeping giant, in my opinion, based on the new facilities, the kids he's getting to come out that hadn't played previously. I mean, there's a ton of talent walking around that school. Zane's going to do a phenomenal job. Then the staff he built around him is ridiculous too. You look at the hires he brought into that group, and Lewiston already had some great coaches in the building too. But like some of the names he brought in with him, I mean, good grief. I mean, it's like a murderer's row of coordinators and position coaches around him. And then it started to raise the question, okay, well, what's going to happen at Kendrick? And then, we heard some rumblings, and then we saw the hire. I think before it was officially released, we kind of got a little insider info. And before they officially announced the position, when they hired Ty Kep as the head coach, the youngest head coach, I think, in the United States this year. If I'm not, I'm 99% sure on that one.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of a better coach. Like, I know he's young, but you talk about the football mind, the ability to rally his players around him when he was a quarterback, and now some of those same kids he played with, he's coaching. But he commands their respect. And I think Ty is going to be a phenomenal head coach at Kendrick. If you said there's a home run hire in Zane at Lewiston, you got to say, like, I know he's young, but give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't look at youth as being necessarily a detriment. Maybe he's not as experienced as some of the other guys, but you want to go just based purely on football knowledge and being able to motivate players. I think they absolutely knocked that one out of the park, getting Ty as the head coach down at Kendrick. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. And then seeing, the enrollment numbers that are starting to trickle out for next year and how classifications are going to change again. Kendrick may be going back down. It's going to be awesome. I think Ty's set up for success. There's a ton of athletes in that building and for years to come. mean, those cupboards aren't going to be bare for the next 6 years. So I think, Kendrick, kudos for making that one happen and putting some quality guys behind him. And that's the one that I really saw that stood out to me. I think Zane was like 1A, Ty's 1B. And I think Ty's kind of flew under the radar and not really gotten a lot of the press because Lewiston's the bigger school. But I think equally, they're both great hires.
Yeah, Ty, just 2 football seasons ago, was in his senior campaign for Kendrick. So he is basically 1 year removed from playing high school football at Kendrick. Is going to turn 20. Definitely the youngest head coach in the country right now. I can say that pretty confidently. And then I was trying to find historical research, and some really big prep writers in California and Texas kind of in the late 90s were researching like youngest head coaches of all time, and they were all like 21, 22. So just off of that, I feel pretty good about saying Ty is maybe the youngest head coach of all time, anywhere.
Which, I mean, we could just take credit. It was his time at IdahoSports.com that just made that happen. I say that, but no, I mean, and I think Zane did a great job preparing him for that role as far as giving them keys to the car when he was playing. And he's just got a phenomenal football mind, and they're in good hands. I really do look at Kendrick, and we can talk about favorites next week of leagues and stuff like that. But I'd have a hard time picking against Kendrick this year. So I'll leave it at that.
I think a lot of people just think that there was going to be a big drop off when Zane left, and that's like the one guy that it's like you just hand the keys to it, and there's not a lot of difference. I mean, Ty knows that program just as good as Zane did, and so. It just puts them in a really good spot to be successful. And with the amount of athletes that they have coming back, like they're going to be in a really good shape. And like you mentioned, them dropping back down next year, it kind of, eases out the burden of, losing those athletes. You're still going to be in a really good spot to win for the foreseeable future. And I don't think Ty's leaving Kendrick anytime soon.
No.
Ty works on the family farm there in Kendrick. And behind the scenes, Ty Kep was a broadcaster for us last year at IdahoSports.com for football and basketball season. Fantastic, like everything he does in life, fantastic broadcaster, certainly. I was prepared to, we have our Idaho 8-man Prepcast, which is starting next week here on IdahoSports.com. We do that every Wednesday night. We talk strictly 8-man football for about an hour or so. I was prepared to ask Ty, like, hey, do you want to be a regular on the 8-man Prepcast? We already have awesome. We have a legendary coach already in former Carey coach Lane Kirkland. Now we could get a legendary player in Ty Kep. And I was all prepared to. And then Zane took this job at Lewiston, and I started to kind of prepare for, I don't think Ty is going to be able to broadcast for us. I thought, though, it was going to be because Ty was going to coach with Zane at Lewiston, QB coach, something like that. I never thought that it would be at Kendrick, and I think it's great. And the best part, I sent Ty a text and congratulated him and all that good stuff. And then I said, hey, I know you can't broadcast football for us. I said, but do you still want to broadcast basketball for us during the winter? And he said, absolutely, you bet. So we've got Ty locked up for basketball season to broadcast for us here. So I'm excited for all of it. So.
No, I'm stoked for him and for the school. And I mean, they've got so many great kids in that program too. I mean, we talk about how good of athletes they are, but I think they're better people. When you start to get to know a lot of those kids, they're just awesome. And, now I understand why Zane spoke so highly of his team. And, you get to be around those kids, the more success they have, they stay humble. And Ty's a great example of that. And I think he's going to exemplify that as head coach, having that humility of success and being able to still thrive in it. And he'll probably find a way to still have a chip on his shoulder, as he always did. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I remember texting you and Paul because I heard about Ty getting the job before it was officially announced. It's like, oh, well, Idaho Sports is losing a broadcaster that took the head coaching job at Kendrick. And Paul goes, congratulations. I was like, it ain't me. So yeah, Ty taking that gig was pretty cool. So that was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's wrap up the show with Amelia's original request. She was so patient asking for a breakdown of the Rigby Coeur d'Alene football game next week in Rigby. This is the 4th consecutive year that the Trojans and Vikings meet in the season opener. They are the preeminent teams from their regions, Rigby from the east, Coeur d'Alene from the north. The first 2 years, they played at the University of Montana's Washington Grizzlies Stadium, home to the Montana Grizzlies. Last year, they were all set to play there again, but a Shania Twain concert preempted the game, so they decided to do a home and home instead. They played in Coeur d'Alene last year, so now the Vikings will make the trip over to Rigby to play this game this year. Hayden, you talk about star power, and in terms of like broadcast production, you always start with the quarterbacks. Well, both QBs are back. Jake Flowers for Rigby, Caden Simmons for Coeur d'Alene. Let's not forget the Vikings beat Rigby last year in the season opener. Rigby did not lose again. They won 11 straight on their way to the 6A championship to finish 11-1 overall. I can't wait for this rematch.
No, absolutely. And you talk a lot about during the off season, like you get a new coach in or you have a new quarterback coming into the system. That doesn't happen with these two programs. They're in a spot to, start exactly where they left off in November. And a lot of times you see offenses starting really slow, and I just don't think that's going to happen. These two teams are going to be firing on all cylinders, and it's going to be a showcase. I'm guaranteeing it.
Where do you think the matchup is won, Ryan?
It's going to be up front. I mean, I look at Coeur d'Alene, they lost some dudes up on the offensive line. I don't think they're going to be good, but I don't know if they're going to be as big as they've been in years past. I think they're more athletic up front this year. Can they stop? I mean, Rigby's got dudes, and I think it's going to be one in the trenches. Can Coeur d'Alene get a run game going? We saw them when they couldn't get the run game going against Eagle last year to end the season. Caden was thrown off of his rear end a little bit. I mean, he was getting planted in the ground, getting hit, and it just wasn't how Coeur d'Alene wants to do it. They want to control the ball and be able to take their shots deep when they show themselves. Are they going to be able to replace, some of the skill positions on the outside? I think, losing, an all-state DB and wide receiver, that's going to be a big vacuum to compensate for. They've got a lot back at linebacker. I think they probably have the deepest linebacking core any classification in the state. I think there was 3 guys that had over 100 tackles last year in that linebacking core. So, that they're going to be okay there on the backside of that front seven. Can they protect over the top? I think is going to be the question in the secondary on the defense and then the offensive line. Those are the 2 key spots that I would look at for the Vikings. I think they've got a chance. They beat them last year. I mean, it's an early game. I think if you're going to play Rigby, playing them early is probably the best time to play them. You have to go on the road. That's a long road trip. In the heat, it's going to be hot. It's East Idaho in the early, late summer. It's not going to be a cool game. I think Vikings can keep it competitive just with the moxie and the ability that Caden has. Can he protect the football? We saw him make some mistakes late last year in games. Overall, though, didn't throw a ton of picks on the season. Just that playoff stretch, those 2 games, he threw some interceptions, and so, but a lot of it was from pressure. So I think if Coeur d'Alene can keep him clean, they're going to be just fine. They're going to have to get a run game behind him, though, I think, in order to really do what they need to do on offense.
Yeah, that's the big question. They have 3 seniors on the O-line they feel pretty good about. Colt Robertson, Dylan Mamat, Rylan Peterson. Of course, Simmons back at quarterback. Lost 5 of the top 6 receivers in terms of yardage, and that's including Anthony Browning, the running back last year. So that's going to be key. Ian Dolan is maybe going to play a little more on offense at H-back this year. Ben Murray is going to be probably the top receiver. He's going to have to step up a little bit. The one thing Coeur d'Alene does that not a lot of other 6A programs do, they're not afraid to play a guy both ways. You mentioned Kai Wheeler, the all-state wide receiver and cornerback last year. Some 6A schools are just like, no, it's either offense or defense. And Coeur d'Alene and Sean Amos, he's been doing this forever, 28th year at Coeur d'Alene, knows a thing or two, goes, hey, if he's my best athlete at a spot on offense and on defense, I'm going to play him both ways. Let's do it. So I agree with you there. Offensive line for Coeur d'Alene, I think, is going to be better than people expect. Rigby's strength is really in the secondary. They bring back, I think, 3 or 4 starters, including 2 all-state players in the secondary. So can these new receivers for Coeur d'Alene find matchups against the secondary? I think is really going to be the key to that game. And I will say, only because I was there last year, I was broadcasting for IdahoSports.com. Bishop Kelly came to Rigby last year, and I was covering that game for IdahoSports.com. No hyperbole here. there was like 2,000 people at that game for Rigby.
Yep.
They packed it. The stands were packed. People were on the field, on the sidelines. I mean, it was packed. It was loud. And I'm not sure the last time Coeur d'Alene went into a road environment like that was.
Yep.
And so that's going to be interesting to me too. But
yeah, and I think the X factor too is how are they going to use Tanner Stern? I think that's going to be the question, because we know he can play quarterback. Is he going to get some more series this year than he's had in years past? Hopefully he's still around. Like, I don't know what happens during the summer, but I mean, if they can get him some touches, maybe get him, at the H or put him at tight end too. He's a big body. He's like 6'5". I mean, he's a big kid. So how are they going to use him and his size too in the offense and his ability to throw the ball?
yeah, he kind of came in as a change of pace guy last year, and it would not surprise me to see Tanner Stern play a little linebacker this year too, if they needed him to. So Hayden, sorry, I cut you off there.
No, when you have a good athlete, you have to use them. I mean, I know that in 11-man, that's kind of unorthodox, but like you guys were saying, you have a good athlete that's better than, an athlete that could be just playing on defense. It's worth playing them both ways. And, setting Caden Simmons up for success, it's, having those guys around him, like him at his, apex is having dudes that can contribute and taking the pressure off of him. So then, when he wants to show out, he's in a good opportunity to. It's not everything's relying on the quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Of course, we'll talk about the Coeur d'Alene Rigby game next week and all of the other big matchups ahead of week 1 as well. If you are ready for football, our previews are still being put up on the website at IdahoSports.com, conference previews, team pages for every single football team in the state of Idaho. By this time next week, all of our previews will be up on the site, and you will be ready to go for the 2025 season. That'll do it for this debut edition. I said in the pre-show meeting, guys, oh yeah, this will just be a light, easy episode. And then I looked up and it's 37 minutes, and that's what happens. So good luck, you guys.
Put me in front of a microphone. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Ryan, looking forward to hearing your insight and your witty humor throughout the season as well. So
yeah, no, I'm excited to be given the keys to the car. I mean, Dad's trusted me enough to kind of step away. So, and trust Hayden and I to hopefully not drive this thing into the ground. So, we'll do our best.
That's right, Hayden. I'm excited to see you kind of in the captain's chair as well. So
yeah, I'm excited to learn. Like I said, I don't have a ton of experience in District 1, and so to sit back and just kind of listen to Ryan, that's almost, that's what I'm taking away from all of this, is just kind of being a sponge and taking in everything I can to, learn, because I don't know, and I'm, kind of as a viewer, I want to just pick up as much knowledge as possible from the North Idaho expert.
That's right. Hayden, I would say you are more than sponge worthy. And so I think I found our podcast title as well. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you'll know what I'm talking about there. But on that note, thank you for tuning in, everybody. For Hayden Uhlenkott and Ryan Scaggs, my name is Brandon Baney. Season 5 of the North Idaho Prepcast off and running. We'll see you next week on IdahoSports.com.